Tashidilek, this is part of an interview series with candidates running for 2021 TPiE elections. We are focused on creating a platform for new faces from diverse backgrounds in order for our viewers to also engage in the discussion we are about to have. I'm Choekyi Lhamo, and here with us today we have Wande Kyabla and Ogin Kyabla. Thank you for joining us today. Just for the viewers, we had invited a few more candidates, including female aspirants in the Domey pool, but they declined due to personal reasons or scheduling conflict. Wande Kyab is the former president of Regional Tibetan Youth Congress in Dharamshala and also worked as a reporter at Tibet Times. He's currently working as a senior researcher and manager at one of the prominent rights group Tibet Watch. Ogin Kyab worked with TPiE's secretariat via Tibet Corp and also translated the Tibetan Charter from Tibetan to English. He is currently working as a company manager at British Telecom in New Delhi. We'll start with the questions. The first question will start with Wande Kyab. Let us delve into what are the key issues you want to put forth in the parliament if elected.
Thank you, Choekyi. So, being a Tibetan political refugee and with experience of many years that I engaged with Tibetan freedom struggle and then activists and then kind of the reporting and research works, we have, to be honest, we have lots of key issues to take forward in the parliament, but just in case I just bring up a few examples. Suppose like sometime, it's not only sometime, but since we are political refugee in India, we perform our works as someone who hold the branches by ignoring the roots. Actually, we are refugee here as a voices of voiceless, and we all endurance and all focus and all attention should be back in Tibet. And we have to work on that. But even, for example, like the Tibetan Parliament, which meets twice in a year, and only the beginning day, the first day, the people, they just speak about situation and then the current development inside Tibet. But all the rest of 9 days, the issues they raised or debate they argued, whatever the issues they raised or the things they speak about is only about the departments, settlements, schools, monasteries, and offices of Tibet across the world. That only based in exile, but we are completely, not completely ignoring, but there's no concrete policies, projects, or budgeting that to reach out inside Tibet or to work inside Tibet. So that's one of the main key issue. If I get the seat, I permanently speak about to reach out to Tibetans inside Tibet and how we engage with this freedom struggle and to resolve our freedom struggle and to solve the Tibet issue and to reunite the Tibetans inside and outside. At least we have to 50% of the Tibetan Parliament meeting for regular meetings are for 10 days. Minimum 50% of the time we have to discuss about Tibet and Tibetans inside Tibet and its development and its project, what we have to implement. So these things are main key issue that I want to take forward. And then another way, like we are claiming that we are practicing a form of democratic government in exile in Tibetan diaspora, but at the same time, we have to really practice in a democratic form of government. We have number of things to make a concrete and structural system changes that we have to make right now. From initially, we have a way out, but what I observed for last decades or more than that, there's so many things that are not functioning properly. So these things we have to make something that the better way we have to change and we have to put forward for today and for the future. So these key issues we have to talk in Tibetan Parliament.
Ogenla, the same question goes to you. What will be the key issues you will be putting forward in the parliament if you're elected?
Okay. First of all, touch the leg, and also touch the leg to Wang Den Chap. So the most immediate cause or the most prominent factor that made me to actually run for MP this time is because of the radically changing international relations and international politics vis-a-vis China. So, so I will be mainly focusing and then working towards that. So what we are going to do if there will be any sudden and untoward eventualities that will happen, that will come our way, that will happen with China. So I think we should be well prepared beforehand for such kind of sudden incidents that might happen. So I think if I get elected, I will be working for emergency like responses type that for different kind of possibility that might happen. So I will be pushing for like working on different possible modules of what's going to happen to Chinese regime, and then accordingly we will plan and devise certain kind of emergency responses. And then also my main focus is for our national cause, the political struggle. So I think, as my slogan says, in terms of our political struggle, we need to diversify and intensify our struggle, our methods and the strategies of struggle. In terms of diversifying, I think, we need more collaboration and coordination with the Tibetans inside Tibet. So we all know that inside Tibet, the Tibetans are completely like patriotic, and then they express their nationalism in different ways, and then they are overwhelmingly with us. So this is a great like resource and capital that we need to really harness and tap on. So far we have not done that, and then people say that if we contact them and then if we collaborate with them, then they would be the people who would be suffering, and then they'd be repressed and all. But I think it's already happening, even if we don't do that, right? So Chinese government has always been saying that whatever happens inside Tibet, they're accusing us that we are inciting those things, right? So I think even if we don't do anything, but still they are expressing their nationalism, their discontent in different ways, as we know, literature, poem, and music, etc. Right? So I think this is a great resource that we should really utilize it. So yeah, that's one thing. See, right now we have all the tools and all the channels that we can actually use to do that. Nowadays we have different apps and different social media and the different channels of communication that we have. We can use all this technology to actually, better coordinate with them. And then, for example, everybody has a mobile, and then even inside Tibet, Tibetan, everybody has a mobile these days, right? So if repression and then crackdown happens there, they all have a mobile, and then they can. It's very easy for them for us outside the world to know that, outside Tibet, to know that what's happening inside Tibet, and then. Also, these days we talk about media freedom, and then global media will be also watching them, right? With all these things, I think it's going to be very, very difficult, for the Chinese government to actually do extreme things that because they also need face, right? They being country that actually for whom the face is like everything, and then they also think that they are rising, and then they are planning they are in the path of playing important role in the international arena, and then because of that, I don't think they can do much. And then this is actually something we really need to work on, I think. And apart from that, our struggle, I think we need to also intensify it. We need to make our struggle more vigorous. So, for example, we also, need to, I think we should also collaborate and then work with the other like minorities who are suffering under that regime, and also as well as the countries around China and around the world that China has been offending and then abusing. So I think we need to really start a multi-pronged strategy to tackle China and put more pressure on China. That China is a regime that we know. They have different standards when it comes to different countries. For example, in terms of Canada and then Australia, they have different standards. And then when it comes to United States, they actually, as we know, they can't do much, right? So China is a regime, the Communist Party is a regime that, they only believe and bow to power and might, So I think likewise, I don't think that's a regime that can be appealed through conscience, and ethics and conscience is irrelevant to that regime, as we know. And that's why we also accordingly we need to also devise ways in which we can put enough pressure for them to come to the negotiation table. And also I think not only that, but also I think nowadays it's a as we know, the international relations and the politics are radically changing and then fast changing in terms of China. I mean, many countries in the West, have started realizing that, the true agenda of this Chinese Communist Party, and that they have been infiltrating, throughout, and then, different levels of countries in the West, and then with all this together, I think we should really take this opportunity to actually reinvent strategies and think of policies that will really put pressure on the regime. So I think this is about briefly about political struggle. I actually, apart from the political struggle, I also have been thinking a lot on all different major issues that we face these days in our communities in exile. So, for example,
regarding China and other issues, like
yes.
if you can wrap up the answer, then if you can elaborate on the key issues that you want to put forth.
Okay, so I actually have thought on many issues and then have also plans and visions on all the major issues. So, for example, the institutions that we have in exile, our democratic institutions are the most important things that we have nurtured and have got so far in our exile, right? So I think protecting and respecting the institutions that we have is the most important thing. One of the most important thing, I think, it's these institutions that we have are the binding force for all the Tibetans in exile that are scattered, across the globe. And then I think I've already taken a lot of time. So I think on these specific issues, what plans do I have? I think in the coming following questions, I think you might ask. So on laws, also I think we, as we know that recently in the recent past, we have got little issues, on this legal problems between the pillars of democracy and all these things. So I think they are also, it's important to actually modify and then even clarify and specify certain laws and also modify those conflicting laws, so that would also help us to stabilize our institutions. And then also I've thought of this welfare of our communities in exile and then the economy that we have. So we really need to also think about ways that, where we can be sustainable and then, for example, if you need economic growth, it is that you need to create more economic activities. So for that, I think we need to have financial institutions of our own instead of relying other like Indian financial institutions, and then we can also finance projects and then different things on our own. And the specifics I'm going to talk about later, but then education also, yes.
Yeah.
Education also, I thought deeply on education, the existing education that has been that we have, that's studied by Samdon Rinpoche. I think that's working well in terms of conserving our culture and language, but also within that policy, I think there are certain things that we also really need to focus and work on. For example,
move to the next question now.
Okay.
It's running out of time, and yes,
okay.
Thank you. We'll go
Okay.
take your take on the next question first. So many feel that the Tibetan Parliament in exile, as you were talking about, needs fundamental changes and restructuring to move ahead with the changing circumstances. Wangdala also a little bit about that in the beginning. So what do you think are some of the changes needed holistically from your constituency's perspective?
In terms of parliament, the composition and all and the structure, I do not think that there is any issue and then there is need of any changes, because we have our own special circumstances in terms of population, and we are in exile, and then what the institutions that we have is actually not for the exiled diaspora, but mainly meant for the Tibetans inside Tibet. So, for example, many people say that because we have religious representatives from the religious sects, I think we Tibetans are different from other communities. we have a large chunk of our population are like from the clergy. And so we, because of the special circumstances, we also need to give them representation. You know, so the other things like, for example, many people also say that, you know, in exile, the population from different Chokas, different regions is drastically different. For example, you know, Uzang people has the most number of people here, and then and then Domey has the least number of population in exile. And then but the representation that they say should be based on the number of population. So I think here also the same thing. I mean, our parliament, the representation, everything, we have devised this framework on the basis of you know, the Tibetans inside Tibet. For example, I mean, giving equal representation for each Choka region. I think that would give a sense of fairness for the people inside Tibet. And then I think this parliament, I mean, in parliament, as we know, parliament is a hotbed of tribalism, as we know, lots of debate, lots of like tribal based like arguments that happen. Usually, as we see in other like parliaments also, that same thing happens. But I think the debates that happen inside our parliament has a little bit of tendency of tribal and regional kind of fervor that we can see. But I think that's something we really need to work on. Apart from that, I think the basic structure, the composition, and all that, I don't think there's a need to change, because we need to always keep in mind that whatever institutions that we have in our exile, that is based on the Tibetans inside Tibet, you know, not only the exiled Tibetans. So I think there's no problem in that.
Okay, thank you, Kela. Wangdela, what do you think? Because many from the West constituency in the West, they believe that there should be a proper representation in the Tibetan Parliament in exile for the Tibetans living outside. But as Ugyenla also pointed out, the Domey's constituency is one of the has the least population in the Parliament, in the exile community. What are your thoughts on the restructuring of the Tibetan Parliament in exile? What do you think? What are some changes that are needed? Wangdela, if you can unmute. Go ahead, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so regarding the historical changes of exile Tibetan democratic process, at the beginning we have just few delegates or representatives from Chokas and then Choekyis, and that time even the Bon religion does not have representatives. Then gradually the representatives are increased, and then the traditional Bon religion also added, and then even we can have more in the future. So this is how the democratic structure evolved and developed and make in a better structure. But according to your direct question, yeah, in exile diaspora, the Uyghur is the largest population, and then the Domey is the smallest and less number of people over here. But that doesn't mean like inside Tibet is they're similar. Like the inside Tibet is the small amount of population, or the largest population is in Wuzhang region. It doesn't mean that. So here, whether we one individual or a single person or a group of people, or it's a community or it's a region, we are the representatives of entire Tibet that who are living inside Tibet. At the beginning of the 1959, his Holiness and his Kasha and followers, they escaped to India by rejecting the illegal occupation of China. And that time itself is something as big step. It's like a opening gate for a future Tibet. So in this Tibetan struggle cause, whether we have a group of people or a single person or a region, we have to be a voices of the voiceless. So in regions, right now we have like equally number in India, Bhutan and Nepal, like 10-10. But even many people who live in West, they are also demanding to have more representatives from their constituencies. But the more important thing is like, how do we put our works forth and make it effective way, and to bring the changes and to bring the results. Otherwise, if there are 100 representatives in our parliament, if those people who do not work properly or do not spend enough time for the cause, then what the means of having that huge number of representatives? Okay. So in that case, the matter is not the representatives and its number, but the matter is how the representatives, they do their responsibilities and works for the cause of Tibet and in the cause of freedom struggle.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Wangdila. So my next question, my next round of questions to you both is about what youth constitutes in the exile are proposing. There's a growing view among the Tibetan constituents, especially the youth, that lawmakers need credibility with regards to the work they do as an MP, both in the House as well as outside the Parliament. And that many serving existing lawmakers fall short of that assessment. I'll go with Wang Dekyap on this. What do you think about this? Do you feel the same? That the existing lawmakers need credibility both inside the House and outside?
What I feel and what I'm believing, in one way, in Tibetan Parliament, the MPs, I'm always thinking that way. There should be a limited term. Like Sichong, he has terms. Only Sichong cannot do more than two terms. But even Chutus, 2 terms or 3 terms. 3 terms is more than enough. That's what I think. In 15 years, if you can do or you can make something different, you have enough time for 15 years. And more than that, then it's like it should not be like old age house.
Right.
This is one thing. Yeah, this is one thing. And then another thing is like, in a course of democratic journey, we need a party system. That what I urgently see. Otherwise, like, right now we don't have any party system, and then there's no opposition parties. So it's sometimes it's very dangerous for in terms of democracy.
Right.
As long as you don't have opposition parties, then it's like one entrepreneur who is playing his or her monopoly in a market.
Okay.
This entrepreneur can do whatever the entrepreneur wish to do, because there's no other options that people they can go or they can do. But
Right.
if there are two or more entrepreneurs, then the competitions come among them, and then people have lots of choice and alternative choice. They can go for either one. So the another issue is like we need opposition parties or party system in this democratic form of government. And then the inside parliament and the outside parliament, I do not have that kind of thought, but even what I'm thinking is like the MPs, they can not do enough jobs just to attend 2 meetings a year or make their the settlement tours. But at least in a year, 5 to 6 months, they have to work for the cause of Tibet and for the parliamentary jobs. And then we can achieve something, we can arrange something, and we can implement something. Otherwise, just attend for 2 meetings in a year. And then some MPs, they are not even going for the tours, the parliamentary tours. And then what's the use of taking that seat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are what I'm believing, and I'm urgent to make some changes in that way.
Okay, thank you, Wangdila. Ugela, on the question of credibility, since both of the candidates we're interviewing today have worked in a lot of organizations and different outside the Tibetan exile diaspora as well as you are at the moment, what are your thoughts on the existing lawmakers falling short of that assessment to be an MP in the parliament? Do you feel the same?
Yeah. So this, I too sometimes feel the same. Those existing lawmakers that we have, either inside the house or outside, I think certain individuals in there, they fall short of the expectations and then credibilities that people expect from them. So many people, as we see, many people, there are few people who just, do not take much responsibilities outside, and then they just attend the 2 sessions in a year, and then even while attending the sessions, they just do not raise like concerns or put raise issues in the parliament. And then there are also others who actually sitting there to actually, flame that sense of tribal nationalism inside there, and then they actually influence the people, and people looking at their representatives, And then certain comments that they make in that floor, I think that affect the people, people a lot. So I think that these are very, very unhealthy elements of our democracy. So definitely, I think, it's very, very important for the people to be aware of all this. And then when they elect their own representatives, they should really, keep in mind, the credibilities and then historical background and what kind of education they had and then what kind of work experiences they have. And then also their personal like temperament, personality, and then character and all these things I think people should take into consideration. But again, I mean, people, it's impossible for everybody to do that. So as a people, how we do this? I think, there should be from each region, there should be a certain like committees. We already have GTUs, right? So those GTUs, they should actually play the role of nominating people from their own regions, and also I think, those people, existing MPs, what they have done in the past, representing the people, their track record, and then on the basis of people who are new joinees, I mean, new joiners who are coming in, running for MP, they also should have a thorough research of their backgrounds and whether they would be able to do the job or not. All these things, they should have a complete information. And then I think each region, we have GDUCs and all, they should nominate. But according to this, our election commission rules, no GDU, no organization, nobody can actually nominate and then overtly support publicly any candidates. I think this is something I think really we should look into, So we are a small community and then, struggling here. So we really cannot afford to elect certain people that will do nothing or actually harm the cause. So I think really this is something that our leaders and then leaders should really think and put effort and think on. Yeah. So party system, I want to make a small comment on my fellow candidate just said, party system. I think party system is something many people have thought about in the past. So party system, again, I mean, when you have a party system, many people who propose this party system, because many democracies around the world, almost there's no democracy in the world which doesn't have a party system. All democracies, except us, have like party systems. But party system is actually those who propose for party system actually want this system to actually reduce this regional problems that we have, right? Regional nationalisms, that is a cause of disunity within our community. But I think when this party system comes, I think there will be another set of problems. We see around the world how many, the parties, the problems, and then the arguments, and then the kind of opposition, the parties that they do to each other. I think that will create another new form of division. That's the major problem. Another problem, I think, as we said, our institutions in exile is actually meant prominently for the Tibetans inside Tibet, not for the diaspora. For the diaspora also, but then I think prominently for the Tibetans inside Tibet. So Tibetans inside Tibet, they population-wise, they almost have the equal, roughly equal. You cannot say it's not like the proportion is the population difference between the two regions are not as drastic as we have in exile. So you know, more population means more representation. So if we have a party system, right? So that may also give the people inside Tibet a certain kind of alienation, I think, you know. So I think as our institutions are mainly meant for the Tibetans inside Tibet, I think the current structure and composition of parliament, I don't see any problem there. So another thing, I mean, I forgot earlier, this as our exile populations are like being migrating, more and more people are migrating to the West. Now more than like 50, 60,000 people are said to be outside India, Nepal, Bhutan. So they are also raising their voices for more representation for people in the West. So I think that that's a really legitimate concern. I think that's really something that we need to think and work on and accordingly adjust. Yeah.
Any rebuttals from London?
I think there's no much response to what he comment, but obviously for the party system and then opposition parties, any system has its strength and its weakness. So it's how implement the basis and then how function the system. That's the main issue, and it makes matter. Otherwise, the systems itself comes in that way. Currently, we don't have that one, but we have this kind of regionalism and then kind of argument and then small dispute among the different different schools of Buddhism within itself, and so this kind of small and minor errors always are there. So that's not the matter of the system itself, but it's something like
That exists in our community.
The existing community, and then only a few people might be making this kind of calls.
Sure. Yeah, Tenzin, your voice is, we are losing you a little bit. If you can speak a little louder the next time we, after the question is asked. So yes, the party system, there are two thoughts at the moment, how party system may affect the infighting that we have in the community, and you know, the other other thought that the democratic system needs a party system for it to function properly. My question is directed to it's on the same issue that we just talked about, infighting in the Tibetan exile community, which has been affected particularly along the lines of political stance, regionalism, and other divisive lines. This is a problem. So, if elected, how do you think Wangden Kyab, how will you address these issues?
The most important thing is what I mentioned earlier. We are holding the branches and ignoring the roots. As soon as we have the concerns of being a political refugee, and we are the delegates of Tibetans who are living inside Tibet, and we urgent responsibility of being a political refugee outside Tibet, then we must have a clear principle and clear stance where we have to go and where we have to go forward, and what we should do and what we should not do. Till that day, since I fled Tibet, it's almost like 20 years in exile. But for me, I don't have any issues with this kind of regionalism or this kind of fight or this kind of things. The reason is like my focus and my intention is always back in Tibet. And there's nothing. If we fight for or we fight for the particular region or particular sect or particular group in exile, that particular region or that particular group or that particular sect cannot be free apart from the rest of the Tibetan and Tibet. There's no point for this kind of minor issues. This obviously is human life, and it's a community. There are differences between people on their perspective of whatever might be. If we really have to grab at the root, and it's our imperative responsibility and duty to hold on that stand, otherwise we will get lost anywhere. So we have to give examples from the top leadership. And even like I won this seat, I will be one of these people. And I am not to be a new quota. I won't be a kungu. I won't be a elite group. From top to down, everyone is exiled. We don't have any land here. We all are refugees. Our status are same, whether it's at the head of the kasha or down to the streets, working with the small business or whatever. We are all exiled Tibetan. So we have same status. So in that case, we have to work in the ground and from the grassroots level. And I can be a member in that way, and I can engage with everyone, every people. No Kutasawas, no elite groups, no Kumos. In my eyes and in my heart, there's no any differences among the Tibetans. Right. The thing is, who are working for the Tibet and Tibetan cause, I appreciate and I admire and I take examples from them, and I work in that way. And I also make others do in that way. From my own example, if I could do.
Yeah, thank you, Mandela. Ugila, you also mentioned about this matter in one of the key issues you were talking about in the beginning. What do you think? Do you feel that there is an existing problem?
Yes. Yes. These problems that we have in our community, the disunity, especially between the different regions, I think that is there. And then especially for the last few years, I think that has intensified, though this issue is a historical legacy. If you read history for past like 1 century, 2 centuries, we had this problem throughout But then I think in the last few years, I think this has intensified a little bit, and then I think this is really an issue that everybody should be thinking about. And I think for the people, I think they're not to blame. I think mainly, I think this is for the leadership, for them to. It is true. The blame goes to the leadership. I think the public figures, the leaders, they are making certain like unhealthy comments in front of the public's eye. So that actually gives, as I said earlier, gives a like great influence to the people. And then I think in order to eradicate or even reduce this this division and disunity that's prevailing in our society, I think the most important thing is that leadership should take responsibilities, as I said earlier, because Parliament is a hotbed of tribalism and the regionalism there. So I think the candidates for Parliament, I think, should be nominated, and then in a pool of candidates, people can choose from them. I think that is should be a way forward. And then also in order to tackle this problem, I think there are many things at many levels that we can do it. Main thing, I think this media should also play a major role here in order to get the people well informed of certain issues that are coming into disputes. And then also, the transparency is also another issue. The government, the leadership should be transparent about what they're doing. So if people, this rumor mongering is one important aspect of this disunity that's happening, right? So people creates like rumors, baseless rumors, and then other people see that and they believe in that, and then many people follow that, and then there is a division that happens. So in order to do that, people should be well informed, and the media should play an important role here. And then that's one type of disunity that we have in a community. Another like difference that we can see is it at the ideological level. I think around Zen and Umilam, and I think there's no need. There's no need at all to actually have to have these frictions to happen in our community. Because I think the ultimate goal is the same, and then both parties, we both are patriotic, nationalistic, and we both love to actually get a resolution for the Tibetan cause, and then both are thinking for the welfare of the Tibetans and all. But one thing I think we should keep in mind is like, I think our struggle right now is not at a stage wherein, people should overtly, openly profess their ideologies and then political stances, openly in the public. I think there's no need of doing that because we, in terms of the struggle and the resolution of the Tibetan cause, we are still, I think we can say nowhere. So it's a still long way to go. So I think we can, both the parties, both ideologies can come together and work together, on a lot of issues. For example, like internationalization of Tibetan issue, and then protests, and then activism, and then even meeting the government officials to raise the issue, and so many things. I think all these things, both ideologies can do it together. So I think at this moment, when we are in desperate need of unity in our community, I think it's not that important, or it may not serve the cause if people just stand out and then express loudly and then overtly their political, ideologies and then stances. So I think we should not do that. Rather, instead, we both should come together and then, focus, our attention towards the opponent.
Thank you to both the candidates for the time given to us. We wish you a successful campaign in the coming weeks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.